get. And I had so many people talk to me about XY chromosomes and genes or what have you, and how this whole thing came about. And the explanation that science gives us, again, it don't make sense. It's one of the reasons why I did this video. So when you look at all the information that's official, that's put out there, and you just use common sense, none of it really works. It don't fit with what we know and what we see today, especially since they're talking about this stuff happening, 300 million years ago, right? You have cyanobacteria that's between 2.4, 2.7 billion years ago. And then only up until, 300 million years, we get in, XY chromosome. So, with reptilians, reptiles existing all this time. We know the temperature was completely different, which allowed for these beings to exist because they are, cold-blooded. They need the sun to basically warm them up to have energy or what have you. And then this mutation of what happened occurred in nature to where eventually we get the, beings crawling out of primordial soup. And we have these, cold-blooded animals or warm-blooded animals later on, which will eventually give us mammals and give us us. And then it's just the whole thing. It's crazy when you start getting into it because it's really confusing, one, but it's a lot to read. But when you're putting it together, it just don't fit with what we know and what we see today. Because again, just like we talk about with the whole, primates and everything like that, you would expect to see this happening in nature. And the reason why they give us this millions of years time gap, because it leads you to believe that you have to wait these millions of years to see it happen, right? Again, I talked about dragons, and I talked about how dinosaurs used to be called dragons. But then we go and we see, 13th century paintings and 15th century paintings of dragons, these guys in whole fucking suits of armor killing these dragons. And I put the video up on my IG showing the guy reveal a painting that was hidden of this whole thing. So we know history, right, has been completely, corrupted. And they want to put us, around a time that's way further away from these dinosaurs or from these dragons or what have you. But we clearly see stories and read stories about these dragons existing. And it's funny because you got to look at that whole thing and try to ask yourself, why is it that we find in history these paintings and these stories about how systematically these dragons was wiped out, right? And then you start to go back and look at DNA, and you go back and you start to look at, where all this supposedly come from. And they're telling you reptiles. That, it's reptile-like creatures that basically started the so-called evolution, bringing about the existence of mankind. Supposedly our skin, as well as, bird feathers, supposedly evolved from reptiles, dinosaurs, or what have you. But it's weird that we have this connection, and then we have this whole dragon connection, but they don't want to connect the two. They're giving us all this other jargon and simply not saying what is clearly right in front of us, that is something weird and funny about this dragon mythology that fits in with this whole thing that we do not get. Now, again, I talked about Maria Gambudis and her having some of the oldest artifacts showing these reptilian creatures. It's something to think about, right? It's something to really look into. But as far as us coming into existence, to me, again, that is something that clearly to me was done in a lab. Something that just can't be the product of evolution and happenstance. Like, this is clearly, higher being. This is intelligence and process, right? Creating something this intelligent requires a high level of intelligence. And to me, it's not something that just happened as a result of a reptilian-like being crawling out of primordial waters, right? It just can't be. So again, when you start digging to it a lot more, a lot of the Darwin people, a lot of the people who believe in evolution, this is what they want to go with. It's something I simply can't follow. I know a lot of you guys have questions on this. I got a lot of questions about this, but it's something that I have never taught. And I can't go that route because it just don't fit with, what we see as far as putting the pieces together. So everything I just talked about as far as, chromosomes and DNA and all that stuff, it's just stuff you got to really pay attention to because they lie about everything. So I don't expect them to give us the truth as far as our genetic makeup, what that really is about. They can't even tell us what the common ancestor is. So how can you give us DNA details? How can you tell us what chromosome does what for real? Like, this is stuff that we read and we have to agree with it and understand it just the same as we have to 1 + 1 = 2 or what have you. So it's just what we have to go with. But as far as common sense and looking at everything, it just don't fit. It don't go. We know there's a lot of holes and there's a lot of things that we find throughout history that makes this hard to accept. And the fact that they haven't given us the truth about, almost anything, you gotta open your mind to alternative understandings and thinkings about this whole situation. And then again, when we start to open the Bible and look in the Bible and see how it's coded in there as far as what's really going on. Now, the dragon mythology, people can call it spooky or what have you. It's something you just can't ignore because we see it in ancient times before television. We see it in the Chinese zodiac. Of course, everything on that zodiac, as I always say, exists. So we supposed to believe the dragon don't. The dragon is on the Chinese zodiac. So everything else on there is real, but the dragon is not. So we have to look at that. We have to look at these stories. And we know how they methodically erase shit from history, right? So we got to understand that systematically things are being taken away. People are now looking at the fact that, so much cover up has happened over the years. You have a lot of people coming out and speaking on it, a lot of white folks coming out and speaking on it. But the thing, as far as us coming into existence, that's a tough one, right? Again, you're looking at the waters, and that's a big hint. The waters, the earth being supposedly mostly waters, supposedly space is waters, the whole firmament, as above, so below. And we don't know, right? We don't know. So, we look at these stories about this, you got to look at stuff like Wakanda, the water people. And it's a lot of stories, mythologies of people believing it's a whole underwater, civilization that's running everything, so-called Atlantis or what have you. So it's a lot of stuff to think about. So we got a lot to dig into, and there's a lot to really study before you start believing exactly what these people telling us, because they're not giving us any truth. So I don't like to really touch on too much of the super spooky Atlantis stuff. We know the stories Plato gave us that he says he got from the ancient Egyptians about Atlantis, but it's something to really think about because the water context plays a major role in the whole thing. So we have that. We have the dragon mythology. There's so much surrounding all of it. It's tough to figure out what to believe, but you got to keep digging. Now, the people who, gave me the questions about chromosomes and about DNA or what have you, and how that plays a role in our makeup, it's right there. If you want to accept that. You can read it in the book, you can Google it, look at it online and read it and accept what it's saying and say, okay, cool, this is how we came into existence. This is how it happened. You can believe that. Or you can just look a little bit deeper and, ask yourself, how is it that, they straight up give us this? And how could they give us this if they don't know what this missing link is, or this so-called common ancestor? Now we have a common ancestor. They telling us going way far back, to, out of the primordial waters, the fucking reptilian-like creatures, what have you, which they say reptile-like, right? When you start to study this thing, you'll see that reptile-like. Okay, so if it's reptile-like, what's the reptile? All right, what is the reptile? Is the reptile, they're talking about a dinosaur? What does that go back to? What is the common ancestor then? Right? So what is that? So it's a mixture of what? What is that? And then to get the whole evolution from these reptilian-like creatures to us, that's crazy. You got to really make that work. And when you look at it on the scale, on the chart, it just don't fit, right? It don't fit. We know there's other, mammals that can lay eggs. We know platypuses can lay eggs, and they're mammals, right? But for the most part, the majority of mammals have internal reproductive organs. So that's another thing to look at, and it's just a lot to take in when you're trying to process this whole thing and look for the truth. So for me, when I started doing this research, it was the albinism that gave it away, right? Because everybody know the whole story of Michael Jackson and vitiligo or what have you. It's something that I looked into growing up because I was fascinated with that whole thing. It's like, yo, this dude turned white. Michael Jackson turned white. How the fuck that happened? I really looked into it at a young age, and I was like, damn, vitiligo, and I studied it, and it was just weird to me, like, And you look at that, and you see the pictures, and you look at white folks, and you're like, this must be what happened to them, right? And then, you go and look at the official story, and they say, nope, that's not what happened. We basically, our early ancestors made it with Neanderthals, and that's how we came to be. And you're scratching your head like, that don't make sense. So when I started to see that, and then I started to study vitiligo, and then when OCA, because albinism, of course, is everywhere, OCA came up, and I was really getting into OCA and all the traits and everything like that. And the more you dig, the more you look, you keep seeing that whole OCA thing, the whole albinism. We have blonde hair, we have blue eyes, we have everything. We have everything that these Europeans have as far as traits in Africa and around the world. So that's another thing that just had me scratching my head like, okay, there's more to this. Where to dig, where to look. I go and look at DNA. I go and look at RNA, DNA, understand the genetic makeup of things and how stuff works, coding or what have you, and all that stuff sounds all well and good, but it don't fit with what you see with your own eyes. So for years, the official story has been that. And then Keith Chang comes out, fucks all this shit up. And I put that out as soon as I saw it because it was a big deal to me that he comes out. And this dude, remember, at the end of the video, she says, before we didn't have any concrete evidence. Now we do, because we have the fucking gene. So anybody who wants to argue, I debated with people so much on this, and you can't debate the facts. You can't debate the fact that we have the gene. So if you have a bunch of hate in your heart and you racist, whatever you are, you just don't want to believe it, we have the gene. There's no way around that, right? And then again, you see with your own eyes, albinism, vitiligo. You see white people, right, having these same type of features as these people with albinism. And the fact that Europeans have albinism, Asians have albinism, every race has albinism, and it being hereditary, and the only group of people, the only race of people that have every single trait, meaning they are patient zero, the originators, is African people, meaning you had to get it from them. It's the end of the story. It's the end of the story. So again, people got a lot of questions about DNA, and it's a lot of arguments back and forth that, oh, white people ain't even real. They come from monkeys or what have you. And I mean, come on, like it's too much hate out there. They look like us. Like, what's the difference? Blonde hair, blue eyes, but we have blonde hair, blue eyes too. What's the difference? So it's a lot of people got a lot of hate in their heart. They don't want to accept it. They fighting over shit we shouldn't even fight about. It's not even that deep. It's so much more shit to really get into besides really getting into race. Now, the whole gender part of it, get into the whole double X and XY chromosome or what have you, that just really goes back into who was here first. Like, goes back to what I was talking about with the Bible and understanding, of course, Eve had to be first. There's no way she came from Adam's rib, right? It's possible because the woman had to be here. And then you start to go into the whole metaphysics of it and understand, again, Adam, atom, Eve, electron, and all that stuff I discussed before. Eve means before, Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, is all a parable. So it's up to you guys on how to accept all that. It's a lot of information out there, but I had questions on this, so I wanted to touch on it and really get into the DNA part of it and see if you guys can try to get it to fit within your research, because it don't fit in mine. It just don't. It's stuff to understand and know, yeah, but I go deeper. I'm more esoteric with stuff. I'm more occult with things. And I don't really accept the official explanation of any of this shit, to tell you the truth. I just look at it and say, okay, well, I understand what you're talking about, where do you get it from or what have you. But as far as my research, I got to stick with that. And I've been right so far. So I'm going to stick with that. But it's still good to understand so you can know exactly what these people are saying and where to get their information from. So don't ever, discount that. Keep doing what you're doing as far as studying your information. But as far as this whole makeup of, what made us and how we came to be. And I said this shit before, to me, it's obviously a higher being, a higher intelligence that created us. And to me, there's no way around that. There is intelligence in our creation. And I always give you guys the examples of 20 hydrogen atoms creates calcium, which creates our bone structure. And if they know that a certain amount of atoms and elements create certain things, and you had to get these things together to create this perfect being, right? This is not by accident. This is somebody, adding numbers and putting things together to create what they wanted to create it. And if we're supposed to be in their likeness or what have you, they supposedly look like us. Who the fuck knows? I just know the official story is not the correct story. The official story don't fit with what common sense is telling us. So it's just up to you guys to figure it out on your own and go with what you want to go with. But appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. Links are in the description for everything. It's a new link for you guys to join Merkabah Scholar Society and to get the, all the digital downloads. They have over 100 DVDs. All the videos is online. So a lot of people ask about certain DVDs. They're digital right now, so you can download them. I'm not selling DVDs no more. So a lot of people ask about those. The link is in the description for you can go and see all that stuff. It's a lot of videos. But yeah, still time to join. Price is still low. Take your time, look through it. And I'll see you guys next video. Peace.